It's great to be along with you for the Gashouse Gang on this President's Day edition with Kevin Wheeler, Matt Pauley, Bernie Miklasz. I'm Tom Ackerman. Let's talk some baseball. It is full squad workout day, an exciting day down in Jupiter. Matt, how's everything down there in spring training land?
Yeah, it's great. Today is one of those mile marker days because this is the day where we see the first full squad workout, a lot of batting practice going on. Everybody's around, lots of excitement. Like, this is one of those good vibes days that you get every year in spring training. And it's a lot of fun to be around.
Wheels here in St. Louis. It's a little chilly and going to be snowy.
Yeah,
but we have baseball on our brains. I know you do.
Yeah, and it's a full squad for us. So you get the combination of the full squad workout and the four of us together. Looking forward to seeing what this means. You know, when what Matt says, like when you're down there, the first few days, like there's some excitement when you first start seeing people in the clubhouse, and there's a couple bullpens, and then for a few days it's just like snore. But then once the position players are there, you know a couple things. One, you're going to see a little more action. There's a little more movement. There's more guys out on the field, more things happening, and we're only days away from games. So yeah, that's pretty cool.
I've always been the games guy on these trips. You know, you guys go down early, and I catch the last 2 weeks of games. I'm looking forward to that. I'll be down March 9th. My first game is Cards-Yankees. Should be great. A lot of excitement, Bernie.
Nothing to get excited there.
Yeah, I'm not calling it, but I'll show up and do that. And then I got some games on my schedule later. But, you know, Bernie, the thing, though, is this. I don't know how to feel about the team, and I'm not sure even at this stage the team knows how to feel about the team. We have had the whole theme in the offseason that it is going to be a reset, that they're going to develop players, etc. The reset from the front office down, so it affects everybody. But I'm starting to think with Nolan Arenado back that there's a renewed feeling in that clubhouse of, you know, maybe this team isn't so bad and maybe we should press the pedal down a little bit and try to win. I don't know that they necessarily know what their identity is at this very moment.
It's a very interesting situation they're in. I'm really personally and professionally pleased that the Arenado situation's been resolved for now. I'm sure towards the trade deadline it'll perk up again, but it all depends on a lot of things. I don't want to rush ahead to that. Let's just get the season started and we'll see what to make of it, because a lot of different things can happen. But here's the way I would take your question, my dear friend Tom Ackerman, and I would like sort of answer it by asking another question, which is, all right, who is this team? What are they capable of doing? What do you think? Are you optimistic? Or are you pessimistic? What do they think? What does management think? Okay. Basically, my answer to that is, well, did you like last year's team? Because a lot of the talent still on the roster was in place in 2024, including 82.5% of the plate appearances. They're still here. When they moved Palante into the rotation on May the 29th, from that day period, you know, we're looking at here. I got a note. I'm sorry, man. We got a note where it's going to be about 72% of the starts that were made from May 29th to the end of the season. The people that made those 72.5% of the starts represent people still with the team. And the same with the innings. And yeah, they lost Kittredge out of the bullpen, but 76% of the innings provided by that bullpen last year are still in place. So my point is, no team goes from one season to the next with like 100% intact. But the Cardinals pretty much are running it back with what they had last year. So if we're to believe that they're going to do better, they can do better, they will do better. It's up to hitters doing better, because one more thought on this. You know, the Cardinals won 83 games this last season despite having a putrid offense. So if you look at it that way, if you can win 83 games where your offense is awful, well, what can you do if some of these key hitters improve? I think that's a plausible question. I don't think it's Pollyanna, pie in the sky stuff. They're the same guys. It's just a matter of, can they do better?
Absolutely. And if they regress, if Gorman regresses, if Walker regresses, if Wynn regresses, you go right down the line, then they have themselves a problem. On the flip side, if they have a healthy Wilson Contreras and Matt Pauley, I think the X factor now suddenly becomes Nolan Arenado. I mean, if he is great, if he's the old Nolan from 22 where he was an MVP candidate, could they ride his back and maybe creep into the conversation in the NL Central and beyond?
Yeah, they can. And this is the thing that frustrates me about the overwhelming negative narrative about this team this year. Can this be a bad team this year? Of course it can be a bad team. If Nolan Gorman keeps swinging at stuff outside the zone and striking out 2.5 times a game, if Jordan Walker flails at everything that's low and away, if Nolan Arenado can't come up with an extra base hit to save his life, yeah, they're going to be a bad baseball team. And that's a real thing. But it is not crazy to think that Gorman and Walker, with the assistance of Brant Brown, can't take big steps forward. It's not crazy to think that Nolan Arenado is going to have a rather large bounce back season. All these things are just as plausible. So I've never understood completely why everybody has just been completely dismissive of this team. It's why I've said over and over and over that I think the range between the ceiling and the floor for this team is probably the biggest range of just about any team in baseball. But yeah, they absolutely, if things fall right, they can be a team that can win some games and be right there and convince. Now, they're not a World Series team. They're not a deep playoff run team. That's not what they are, and that's what they want to get back to at some point. But would it be nice to be playing some playoff baseball in St. Louis come October? Yeah, that would be a good thing.
Absolutely. I think that they have lost some fans, but not completely. I think that those fans are now in the background saying, I'll come back when you show me a winner. And I don't like what I've seen. And I've been predicting this for years or whatever they say, but they're kind of going to sit back and watch from afar. And Kevin Wheeler, here's a question for you. What are they? Are they a team that is going to do it offensively? Are they a team that is going to try to go back to some defensive help and do it that way and help their pitchers? Are they a team capable of doing it with pitching, or do they need a balance of all three?
I think they got to score some runs, man. I mean, you've got guys in the rotation that give up runs. We can say all we want that we want guys to catch the baseball for guys that let people put the ball in play, but Miles gives up runs. Steven Matz has given up runs. You've got to score enough to make up for that. And I'm not saying defense doesn't matter. I'm a defense guy. I think it matters. But I don't think that's the path to getting better. And you guys think about it for I don't know how long we want to go back to. 10 years, 7 years, 8 years. When this team is in trouble, what's the first thing they lean on? They always say, we're going to go for defense. We're going to go for defense. Well, defense is easier because everyone can play defense. There are a lot of good defenders out there. The bats separate the men from the boys. This team, to be good, to win 90 games, to be a playoff team, to be what they need to be, needs to hit. They've got to score more runs, man. I mean, we watched the 2011 team do it. Look at that lineup. Look at that lineup with Albert and Berkman and Craig and Freeze. I mean, good God, the lineup was loaded. Look at 2006. Yeah, it wasn't perfect, but they were still loaded with dudes. You're not going to win anything with a below average offense. They've got to score more runs, man. And some of it's on players, right? It's on Nolan Arenado to be better, right? That was nothing to do with the team or management last year. He just wasn't good. And by the way, tip of my cap to him for just saying it, saying, look, I got to be better. I'm one of the reasons we're in this position. I mean, I can respect that because that means the guy understands he needs to change to be better. And the question that I have is, does the team understand as a whole, from the front office to the manager's office to the analytics department, do they understand that they need to change if they're going to get better?
I think something to keep an eye out on, just because I've been sitting in these media sessions. When John Mozeliak has spoken, he has spoken a lot about the necessity of scoring more runs and putting the lineup out there that is going to give you the most runs. When Oliver Marmol talks, he's thrown a little bit of cold water on the Lars Nootbaar in center field thing and some other stuff. So not that it's like this huge organizational disconnect or anything like that. I don't want people to take it as that's what I'm saying, but it does feel like the priorities between those two people here very early on in spring training seem just a little bit different.
Well, if that's the case, I would side with Mo on that one,
Yeah.
Because I appreciate defense, and we all raised Kane a long time, like during those 3 seasons, 2016, 17, 18, where under Mike Matheny, that team just fell apart defensively and fundamentally and everything else. And Mike Schilt, to his great credit, like cleaned that up immediately. And you can sometimes you can play better defense by being smarter about how you position players, and also understanding that a lot of it, maybe your lineup choices, it depends on what kind of starting pitcher is on the mound for you that day. You don't need Michael Ciani when you have Palante, for example, who had the highest ground ball rate of any pitcher through 150 innings in Major League Baseball last year. And they have 2 or 3 other guys with high ground ball rates. If they ever give McGreevy a chance, I don't know, maybe 2029 or 2030, they'll give him a chance. I had to be smart enough. No, he tremendous ground ball rate. So see, that's part of it. I know the manager is absolutely in love with Michael Ciani. It's just like it's amazing. It's just like his belief in Ciani, and Ali has actually talked him into this idea that Ciani can become, a good hitter or a solid hitter. Okay, whatever. But if you have a lot of guys throwing ground balls, the Cardinals are not a great strikeout staff, so the ball's going to be in play. If you got pitchers throwing a lot of ground balls, that's the day you put Lars Nootbaar in center field, because tracking down fly balls and line drives is not going to be as important. Playing really good outfield or infield defense is going to be very important. And that also gives you a chance to maybe go with an offense first outfield, or maybe an offense first starting catcher. But I think Marmol, and I don't know whether it's the veteran pitchers, and people say, "Oh, come on, don't be fair or whatever." Listen, I defend Marmol a lot.
Yeah.
But in 2023, what happened when whining, sorry, no account pitchers started throwing daggers at Wilson Contreras, right? The manager embarrassed himself in the organization by bailing on Contreras. Oh, you're not our catcher anymore. Okay. And the backlash nationally and locally was so extreme that they backed off that pretty soon. So the only reason I say, I wonder if the pitchers are demanding certain things, because we have a history that tells us they can get what they want with this manager. And I like Ali, but I'm just saying, I'm not in the tank for Ali and just going to sit here and say, oh, he's great at everything or he's good at everything. I got some questions about how he's going to fill out this lineup card this year.
Just to kind of play devil's advocate on that one, Bernie, what pitchers have the cachet to do that? Like, when there were some guys in the organization before, like, I don't get the sense that Sonny Gray is upset. I mean, he calls his own game for the most part. He does his own thing. I don't think he's going to get upset about things. I don't know. If you're Miles Michaelis, you've had a 5.5 ERA the last couple of years. Are you going to sit here and say you got to throw to a certain guy? I just don't know at this point in time which pitchers would be doing that.
Sonny Gray wants to be a leader, and he wants to be the head of the Wolfpack there. So if he has some concerns or other pitchers have concerns, he'll take that to the manager. I mean, that's what he has set himself up to do. And you're giving Miles Michaelis too much credit, because in Miles Michaelis' mind, he is like this close to becoming a Cardinals Hall of Famer or something. Miles Michaelis has convinced himself that he's really, really an outstanding pitcher, and he's a leader of this team, So Marmol's got to have to make tough decisions. So let me revise my remarks in this regard. If it comes down to a situation, I don't care who the pitcher is, where they're trying to do what they want rather than what's best for the team. Marmol's got to stand up to it. That's all I'm saying, because he didn't stand up to it in 2023 early on. It was an embarrassment.
This is the Gashouse Gang from KMOX. We are sponsored by Game Day Men's Health, and Bernie, we're also sponsored by Saliga Heating and Cooling.
I think Game Day and Saliga Heating and Cooling go together, right? I do. That's why they're here on sponsoring.
Get things right, man. Get things right. That's what matters.
Hey, man, I don't have to tell everybody we got some cold weather, all kinds of nasty stuff on the way. And that's why you would be grateful if you're a Saliga family, Saliga Heating and Cooling family. I know we are, because we have 100% confidence that our heating is going to be doing everything it should do in every room. And we don't have to worry about safety or whether something's working or not. We're set for the winter because of Saliga Heating and Cooling, an independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer. It's been doing this for St. Louis families since 1927. And Dan Saliga maintaining those high standards. But the reason I'm bringing up the winter and heating is that's why I want to tell you to look at that Priority Club. It's a maintenance program, and there's all kinds of benefits. So you go to SaligaHeatingandCooling.com to look for more information. And that way, and there's the phone number on your screen. That way, you know you will be set for whatever the harsh weather is. Really, really, really hot. This typical St. Louis burn in the summer. You want to make sure your air conditioning is ready for that. In the winter, make sure your heating is ready. That's what they do for you. And if you need it, they have that American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer. But take a look at that Priority Club at SaligaHeatingandCooling.com. Thank you.
Bernie, thank you. The Gashouse gang from KMOX with Bernie Miklasz, Matt Pauley, Kevin Wheeler. I'm Tom Ackerman. I'm glad you guys brought up the offense and the defensive replacements and all of that, because yesterday when Nolan got his arrival to camp, of course, I grab anything I can find. I start scribbling down lineups. I've always been doing it. I've got a lot of different scenarios on here, but I settled on this one that I really like, and I think this is a max out offense type of lineup if you want to go that route, which I do. So here's what I've got. And Kevin will let you, because I know everybody's going to want to pick this apart, and that's okay. I actually put this on Twitter yesterday. Surprisingly, got a lot of support from Cardinals fans on this. Didn't think I would, but people tended to like this. And then some good, criticism. But anyway, Mason Wynn leading off and playing shortstop. Brendan Donovan in left field batting second. Wilson Contreras at first base bats third. Alec Burleson, the DH, bats fourth. Nolan Arenado in the fifth spot, batting fifth and playing third base. Lars Nootbaar, the center fielder, batting sixth. Jordan Walker in right bats seventh. Nolan Gorman is the second baseman, batting eighth. And Ivan Herrera is my catcher, batting ninth. Not a lot of holes in that lineup if they come through. If they do not, like the 7 and 8 hitters, Walker and Gorman, obviously you got a bit of an issue. Kevin, let's start with you. What do you think about that lineup?
I mean, it's that looks a lot probably like what we're going to see. What I would do, Tom, and there's nothing, this is not like a massive critique or anything, but I mean, we got to have on base percentage at the top of the order. I mean, like I would, if I'm making the lineup, I got Nootbaar and Donovan hitting 1 and 2 in one order or another. Or I'll go one of them lead off, probably Donovan lead off, then my best hitter hitting second, because in baseball in the modern time right now, the best hitter bats second. Juan Soto batted second last year. Corey Seager bats second. Mike Trout bats second. Aaron Judge, until they had Juan Soto, batted second. Like the best hitter hits second. Kyle Schwarber bats leadoff. Kyle Schwarber, he doesn't run. He's not fast. I think the problem that I run into is we got to cluster the best hitters and the best on-base guys together at the top. So if we have Donovan, Nootbaar, Contreras in some order, 1, 2, 3, that sets up everybody else after that. And then when you go through it, you can play it after that. You can play it right, left if you want to. Some of it depends on how Arenado hits. If he hits well, he can move up. If he doesn't, he can move down. I like Alec Burleson and I like Mason Wynn, but they're hard guys for me to put in the top 4 when they're low 300 on-base percentages. And I know Bernie's going to have a lot on the leadoff spot when it comes to on-base percentage, so I'll leave that alone. But OBP has got to be clustered at the top if you're going to score a lot of runs. And then take the risky guys, Walker, Gorman, etc., and they can hit lower in the order. If I'm hitting right now, Mason Wynn probably bats 6th or 7th for me. Because I like him. I think he's going to hit. I think he's going to hit some home runs as he gets older too. But he's not ready to be a leadoff guy. And again, if we're talking about maximizing run production, why shouldn't we be talking about doing what the other top offensive teams do? What the Dodgers do with their 3 best guys hitting 1, 2, 3? What the Red Sox do? Gunnar Henderson bats leadoff for the Orioles. He's one of the best power hitters in the game. He bats leadoff. Rafael Devers bats second in Boston. I think they should be trying to do what the best offensive teams do in baseball.
Bernie, what do you think?
Yeah, and they I don't know they have the overall talent to match the best teams in baseball, but your point is well taken, and you and I are on the same side of this. Listen, I love Mason Wynn. I love everything about him. It's not his fault that he's placed in the leadoff spot. Last year, the Cardinals ranked 29th in baseball out of 30 teams with a leadoff on base percentage of 292. And if you take their first two lineup spots, the on-base percentage was 306, which ranked 27th out of 30. In other words, when we put the first and second, your table setters, the table setter factor together. So they were 29th at the leadoff spot at getting on base, 27th when we're talking the first and second spots together. Listen, I know the Cardinals did a horrible job hitting with runners in scoring position last season, right? But that doesn't mean that somehow, it's not a concern about getting people on base in front of the heart of your lineup, because it's only going to give you more opportunities to drive in runs. And I think they'll be better with RISP this coming year. I can't think of any, I just can't think of a team that would line up with such horrible on base percentages in the first two spots on the lineup. I mean, it's nothing personal. I'm going with the facts, baby. It's nothing personal. And to one thing Will said, I'll dovetail on that. When Mason Wynn hit lower in the lineup last season, dude was a killer. I mean, he's driving in runs all over the place, right? Because you don't have to worry about, do I take pitches? I'm a leadoff man. Oh, maybe I should try to walk. No, it just flowed naturally when he was down in the lineup. He was a very dangerous hitter down there. I don't know. I mean, I'm willing to see if Mason Wynn is going to change some things about his approach, because he's going to have to if the Cardinals are going to have a decent leadoff hitter.
Yeah, and I would throw this in there. If we're going all in on reset and not trying to win games, cool. Let's see what he can do. Let's let him learn. But if you want to win games, if you're telling us you're trying to win games, you got to do what wins games, which is cluster your best hitters together.
But by the way, real quick, and I'll shut up, I promise. I looked this up. This is in terms of just batting leadoff in their careers. Nootbaar's got a 358 on base percentage, and Brendan Donovan batting first has got a 340 on base percentage. The last time I looked, I could be wrong about the facts here. I believe those two figures are higher than a 290 on base percentage, but what do I know?
And I think it should be noted that I like the guys you list are the right guys. That those should be the guys who are in the starting lineup more often than not. My big sports philosophy is when you've got a guy who's got a superpower, when you've got a guy who's really elite at something, you play into that. If you've got a basketball player who's the best three-point shooter in the world and he happens to be a pretty good passer too, you don't put him as a point guard, you put him as a shooting guard. If you've got a wide receiver who could take the top off the ball, great sprint speed, you send him to the end zone. You don't run him on slant plays, even if he can do that. So Brendan Donovan is a guy who gets on base at an elite level. So play into that. So I'm with the other. I'm not trying to beat up on you, Tom, but I'm with the other two here. That Donovan should be the leadoff spot. I'd like Herrera a little bit higher. I liked it last year when they put Herrera as their 4 or 5 hitter. I think he's a guy who could be a legit middle of the order hitter. I'd probably drop Burleson a little bit. I'd probably raise Nootbaar a bit. But I think most importantly, that group that you mentioned, that is the group that's going to put together the opportunity for the Cardinals to score the most amount of runs.
Yeah. All right. That's a good point on Herrera, by the way. I mean, if we're looking at batted ball numbers, Herrera might have the best batted ball numbers of anybody on the team, not named Contreras.
I mean, he draws walks too.
Yeah.
Walks are good.
This is the Gashouse Gang from KMOX with Bernie, Kevin, and Matt. I'm Tom. So I didn't realize we had, Vince Coleman leading off or something. Who's leading off now?
On base.
So Donovan, hold on a second.
Yeah. On base percentage.
It's my turn to talk.
On base percentage.
Donovan's on base percentage. Batting first, 314. Donovan's on base percent.
Its career is 340.
No. I'm talking about last season.
No, his career is 340.
No. Last season, batting first, 314. Leading off an inning, 300. I don't see how that's that much better than Mason Wynn, who, by the way, if you are trying to develop a leadoff hitter for the future, why aren't you letting Mason Wynn have an opportunity to fail? Isn't that the whole point of what we're trying to accomplish here?
Well,
If
yeah,
that's what they're trying to do, yes.
yeah. I mean, Wheeler and I could see that if this is all about, putting players in a position, whether it makes sense at the time, but putting them in the players in a position where they can spread their wings and you see what happened. I have no problem with that.
Right.
But they're the ones that are talking about winning. They're the ones talking about all the offense has got to be better. They're the ones talking about. But Donovan's
back. Well, you got to give me a little time here. If you go back last season and you look at April, look at Donovan's numbers in April in the leadoff spot. They weren't all that great. I mean,
we're judging in April when he's coming off an elbow surgery, and I would think you judge the 3 or 4 years more than 1 month.
I guess so, but Wynn's only played a year. I mean, if you look at what he did in the minor leagues when he started to get things going and on base, his on base was extremely high. It was a 359 career on base in the minor. So I think what I'm saying is I guess I'm sort of leaning more into the middle here.
Okay.
I want to develop players while winning. So I'd be willing to give Mason Wynn a look in April to see how he looks at the top. And if it doesn't work, then I knock him off of there. But I do like the lineup as it's written because I think Donovan can be effective at 2. He does have a good on base percentage overall. I think your 3-hitter this time around, a healthy Contreras, is much better than Goldschmidt. And I do think the entire lineup was affected by the fact that Goldschmidt and Arenado couldn't hit. In fact, nobody in the lineup could hit. So I'm willing to throw away some of the numbers from last year, take a look at what I have this time around. And if it doesn't work, then mix it up. I mean, I like Donovan at the top of the order. I certainly had it up until I started to rethink it. Donovan is a better slug. Donovan's better, I think, batting in front of Contreras. I do have the left right thing going here. If you look at the lineup, it does have that perfect symmetry. I don't know. I love all of your points. Obviously, the statistics bear it out. But then again, I mean, Wynn is actually not a bad hitter when he leads off an inning, which tells me I'm looking at numbers leading off an inning rather than batting first in the order. Right. So batting first in the order, you're
only going to lead off once in the game, right? I mean, you're always going to be hitting in front of the guys that drive in runs, whether you're leading off the inning or not.
Right, exactly. But when Mason, whether he was batting first or not, when he led off an inning, his strikeout to walk ratio improved drastically. Batting first in the order, struck out 84 times, walked 26 times. But over the season, wherever he was batting in the order, when he came up first in the order, that number dropped. He was 36 strikeouts and 16 walks. It's a much better strikeout to walk ratio, which tells me that his mindset leading off an inning is get myself on base. I do think that some of the numbers got a little skewed because Wynn was batting 6, 7, 8, sometimes 9, never batted 2 through 5. Right. There were a lot of times where he was up there to try to drive in a run. He's trying to swing at something, make something happen. I would like personally to see him, and I know he was given this for a good portion of the year, but the offense was terrible. Give him a chance to lead off an inning, and in this 6 weeks of spring training, the mindset of Mason Wynn should be only, how do I get myself on base better? What is my approach, and how do I improve that? If you can't do it, then get him out of there. And I'm fine with all the guys you mentioned. Obviously, it bears out. Nootbaar, terrific on base percentage when he's healthy, when he can stay on. I love Brendan Donovan. I wouldn't say a bad word about Donovan ever. And I'd put him right back at the top of the order. So that's just my feeling on it.
No, that's what you said there. The way you laid that out is reasonable.
I know we need to move on from this topic. Let me throw one more thing out, though. I think Mason Wynn could develop into a 20-plus home run kind of guy. So if we're sitting here talking about what we, putting him in a position so he can develop into something, do we want to put him into position to develop into a high on base guy, or do we want to see him put into a position where he can develop into more of a run producer, power hitter type guy? Power hitter in air quotes, because he's never going to be a 30+ home run guy. But
no, I totally get that. I
Yeah.
think the other options there that you mentioned, Donovan and Nootbaar, I think are ahead of him in the power category. I know that he had 15 bombs, Mason did last year, but I would be more along the lines of watching those guys carry the load a little bit lower in the order. But that's just me. But also a very good point.
Wynn had 32 doubles last year and 15 homers. And 15 homers, that kind of snuck up on everybody. It was actually pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And he also slugged over 400. And he was one of their best hitters with runners in scoring position.
Yeah.
He was one of their best hitters in high leverage situations. He was one of their best hitters in any type of pressure situation, no matter what you want to label it. So Matt Pauley, to your point, I'm all about that. I think maybe it sort of undermines Wynn's potential value by to just view him as a leadoff hitter, when actually he can bring the bat when there's people on base and he's got a chance to drive in runs and hit doubles, hit 15, 20 homers. I'd like to see that deployed elsewhere in the lineup, because I think they need somebody that is great in pressure situations, batting somewhere, 3, 4, 5. I'd love to see him get a chance at that.
Well, if you look at his characteristics, he doesn't swing and miss a lot, and he doesn't strike out a lot. So when you have that and you can run, because he's a great runner, you're not as big a double play threat. I think he's a guy that can drive in runs if you've got on-base guys in front of him. Yeah, that's a good point. He's got the right characteristics for that.
You're watching and listening to the Gashouse Gang from KMOX. We're sponsored by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Bernie, tell us about them.
Absolutely. My friend Dan Saliga is the 4th generation owner, operator of this family business. The same family has continuously owned Saliga Heating and Cooling since 1927. How's that for credibility? How's that for passing the test, acing the test in terms of your trustworthiness and your dependability? That's why we've been a Saliga family for 16 years, so we know all about how great they are at their jobs and also the integrity they bring to the job. They also have that American Standard heating and air conditioning equipment, and American Standard is phenomenal. They're the gold standard for heating and air equipment in this industry. But there's a couple other things real quick. I'm going to say it once again. The Priority Club, take a look at it. Go to SaligaHeatingandCooling.com. Take a look at it, because if you just have regular maintenance a couple times a year, to check out all your equipment before the seasons, especially the cold weather seasons, the hot weather seasons, man, it'll save you money because it'll extend the lifetime of your equipment. You'll also have peace of mind knowing that everything is safe and working great, and on and on and on. You also get priority scheduling. So take a look at that Priority Club. We're members, or I wouldn't recommend it unless we knew how good it was. SaligaHeatingandCooling.com. Thank you.
Vern, thank you. You're watching the Gashouse Gang, and you're probably watching it on your phone, probably watching it on your laptop. Occasionally, people will airplay it up on the TV, which is great. We love that.
That's what they do at game day, by the way. They run it right there on the big screen TV in the lobby.
That's good. I love that. Hi, everybody at game day. You know what we should do? We should get some of the sports bars in town to do it. What else are you going to watch in the middle of the day? Huh?
That's right.
Go.
That's right.
Good.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Take this show on the road, baby.
This is what they talk about, I think, at the sports bars. Matt, what else do you see down there? Let's talk about pitching for a minute, because I know we've talked a lot about this offense, and they are going to have to outslug people. They're going to have to outscore and get a lot higher in run production than they were last year. Last year's offense was abysmal. That said, where does the pitching need to improve? I don't know. I think the only guy on this roster you could say you have nothing more to show us is Ryan Helsley. He was fantastic. But the rest of the bullpen leading up to him, let's start there. How do you see that right now? We talk a lot about the starting rotation, Matt.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of – Jojo Romero has a bit of a track record from last year. I think they need to be more careful with his usage. I think his downtick last year was connected to that, so I hope they don't use him quite as much this upcoming year. But, last year they just went Kittredge, Romero, Helsley, Kittredge, Romero, Helsley, or sometimes Romero, Kittredge, Helsley, but you get the idea. They just use those guys over and over and over. I think it's a huge question, because if we're going to say that this team is much the same as last year, and if the offense can improve and if run scoring can improve, then they can improve and they can, win more games. Well, to go along with that is they have to be pretty close to what they were in the bullpen last year. And statistically, it's almost an anomaly what they did last year. You would think that they would just, even if they pitched just as well as they did last year, that the numbers might fall back a little bit because of how good they were and the randomness that goes along with pitching. So one of the biggest questions past the Walker Gorman thing that we have talked about ad nauseum, maybe the biggest question for this team is who else could step into those high leverage innings? Can Ryan Fernandez follow up what he did last year and move into more of a high leverage spot? Can Matthew Liberator be a guy that you feel comfortable in a high leverage spot? They need more than 3 guys for those last 3 innings. They need 4 or 5 guys that they feel comfortable with. I think, Nick Anderson might be the X factor here if he finds a little bit of what he used to be, and he's had some injuries, but maybe he follows that Kittredge thing a little bit, because Kittredge had been dealing with injuries before last season. If Anderson can find what he was previously, you look at him as a back of the bullpen guy, and then you've got everybody else who have shown flashes, the Roycroft and the Leahy's and the Ludus, like all those guys. Which of those guys maybe do take a step forward this year?
Kevin, a year ago at this time when spring training was rolling, I was ready to put Riley O'Brien in the 8th inning. Nobody could touch his slider. They couldn't hit it.
They would, to get something out of him would really be meaningful this year. Even if it's just like 5th and 6th inning stuff, to have him out there, because the one thing this bullpen misses is still a lot of swing and miss. Helsley gets a lot. He's fine. He's 11 strikeouts per 9, 10 strike. He's fine. Not worried about him. Romero was for a while last year, but then in the second half, it went away. You still got to find some guys that can throw a ball by people. And I think Ryan Fernandez can do that, both with the fastball and with the slider. Obviously, O'Brien has that ability, but he never really, if I remember right, wasn't a big strikeout guy in the minors. And I'm really interested to see whether or not guys like Roycroft can show some of that swing and miss, whether Zach Thompson gets a chance as a power lefty who can get some swing and miss. But really, like they've got to be able to get out of jams, and they've got to be able to do what a lot of the other top bullpens do. And I think they're okay. The bullpen's okay right now. It's not a problem, but it's a potential problem. Like if something were to go wrong with one of your big guys, there's not a lot of depth there. And I would love to see them lean into some more velocity and some more swing and miss. Not that there's a ton of it around, but that's the way I'd lean if I'm them, trying to find guys that can miss some bats.
And the Libby thing's interesting, Bernie, because obviously he has the ability to be a starter. Everybody is a starter at heart, I think, when they've had some experience doing it. But he could be a weapon too. They have some pieces they can move around.
Yeah, and Liberator has shown great potential being a shutdown reliever. And it's one of those things you almost have to see it. Me, I like to dig deep into I like to dig deep into the numbers, but the numbers don't always tell you everything. The context about how a guy is used is really important. And, the fact that Libby's been yo-yoing back and forth, they can't make up their mind, or they haven't been able to make up their mind about what he is. And if they would just let him stay in the bullpen, and he has the mentality, he's a fearless guy. He's a towering presence on the mound. He's got nasty stuff. And when you're a reliever, you don't have to show hitters 3 or 4 pitches. You can show them 2 pitches, but whatever your big pitch is, you're going to run with that a lot. So in other words, he's going to throw his best stuff in a relief role rather than trying to nibble here. Oh, I better show him my changeup now. I better do this. No, he's got the mentality. It's like, okay, let me get after him. I'm going to get after these guys. So if they just leave him alone, I think he could be a really terrific reliever.
I think so too. And I do think that this Cardinals staff will have a lot weighing on it. Did you guys see Frankie Montas is shut down for the Mets here for a little while? It's already starting for them. You just it's all about, you cannot say it enough. It's all about health and it's all about depth. I mean, you cannot have enough depth. I mean, what a disaster that could be for the Mets if they lose someone else. After all that they've built, that they don't have enough, but they do have depth right now. But, man, that's really important. I agree with Joseph, by the way. Matt, I'll let you get the last word here. Tell me about Swanson and what they're saying about him right now.
Yeah, so he's somebody that they protected on the 40-man roster. I actually did an interview with him the other day that's going to run on a future Countdown to Opening Day show. Really interesting profile. They had some choices to make when they decided who they were going to keep. And, this year was one of those years where they did not select anybody in the Rule 5 draft just because they wanted to have as much flexibility as possible in bringing guys up and down. I think they think that's kind of the back end of the back end in terms of the lesser guys. So the fifth, sixth inning guys, there's going to be a lot of up and down when it comes to that. And I think they view Swanson in that group for sure, that he's somebody that they would like to see be given an opportunity this year at the big league level to see if his stuff plays.
Yeah, well, it's going to be fun. We talk about closing at the closing of our show, sponsored by Saliga Heating and Cooling, Game Day Men's Health. A lot of fun to be with you guys as always on a Monday. And I would imagine that when people subscribe to the Bernie Show on YouTube and KMOX Sports on YouTube, they're going to have a lot to review, because now that the full squad starts to work, you get a lot more people starting to move in. NFL season's over. Like, what's been going on with the Cardinals lately? It's going to get really interesting around here. Thanks for tuning into the Gashouse Gang. As always, we will see you next time.